Before we start this video, we wanted to start with a disclaimer. We will be discussing the 6th and 9th commandments in this video and recommend watching with a parent or guardian. We won't be going into explicit detail, and everything we discuss is age appropriate, although we believe this material is best understood in conversation and should be watched with a parent or guardian. We will be presenting the information in a respectful manner that shows the truths of the Catholic Church. Thank you and enjoy.
What are you doing down here? I've run the mountain with the Lord for the last 40 days, and he gave me these commandments, and you're worshiping a golden calf? What? Billy, you think you could help me with this? Could we teach them about the commandments so they know not to break them anymore?
What, are you talking to me?
I'm talking to you, Billy. You can help us. We have to learn about the 6th and the 9th commandment. Think you can do that with me?
I think so.
Hello, Jessica.
Hello, Mark.
I'm really happy to be here on such a beautiful day.
Yeah, this is a really awesome day,
Yeah.
especially we recording a video about the 6th and 9th commandments.
Whoa, amazing.
Yes.
So what is the 6th commandment?
The 6th commandment is thou shalt not commit adultery.
I think we should define what is marriage.
Yeah, I think that's a good starting spot. So, what is marriage? Marriage is free, total, fruitful, faithful promise to one's spouse.
Can you explain what those mean?
Yes, each part. First, marriage is between a man and a woman, and they have to be freely entering into this marriage. So it would be an invalid marriage in the sense when one of the parties is coming to the marriage being forced by a third party or being forced by fear.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Next one is total. Total, it is a total gift of oneself to their spouse, and body and mind and soul. So they're not holding anything back in that marriage. Fruitful refers to children, being open to life and being open to having children so that you can show the world how much you love each other, because children are the result of the love between a man and woman in marriage.
Right. Wow.
And lastly, we have faithful. So faithful is when they love each other in mind, body, and spirit in a marriage.
That's really interesting because I think everybody has known the word marriage, but maybe not fully understood what all of that entails. It's interesting.
Yeah, so a marriage needs to have all of these characteristics for it to be valid within the Catholic Church.
Right.
Yeah. And marriage, it's a vocation. It is a gift from God. He places it on our hearts when we meet the right person, which is whoever God has in mind for us.
Well, Jessica, that's a very detailed explanation of what marriage is, but I'm skeptical. How do I know that this is what God wants?
Yeah. So we know this is what God wants because he gave us Adam and Eve. You can just look at in Genesis where we learn about Adam and Eve, and they have the marriage. They are the example of what marriage looks like. They are faithful to each other and they're fruitful in their marriage. They have a covenant with God to continue the human race. They continue to have children, and that's how we got here today.
Yep, be fruitful and multiply.
Exactly.
Like God said.
Yeah, exactly. And another thing that we learned from Adam and Eve is that men and women, we're really different. Yeah, we're really different. But we're complementary. What does complementary mean? It means that we work really well together. And another example that might be a little bit easier to understand is like ketchup and mustard. Ketchup and mustard, they're different. Like ketchup comes from tomatoes and mustard comes from mustard seeds. But when you put them together, they're fantastic.
Boy, are they ever.
They're really awesome. Like I put them on hot dogs and hamburgers. So good, so good. Some people put them on pasties.
Ooh, yum, yum,
Yummy.
yum.
Anyways, another example is peanut butter and jelly. I love peanut butter and jelly. They're different, but together they work really well.
Man, I'm getting hungry.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So
how about an illustration of what marriage is?
yeah, so I have these two hearts here. this is a woman heart, that's pink, and a blue heart for the man's heart. And you put them together and they don't stick. There's nothing holding them together. They love each other, but there's nothing holding them together.
Jessica, what could hold them together?
Marriage. Marriage can hold them together, which is the glue that we need to put these two hearts together. So if you don't mind, just put some glue on there.
My pleasure.
Yep. Awesome. And then we stick them together, and the two hearts become one, which is what happens in marriage. They become one, and they are stuck together. Not stuck. They're glued together. And the glue is God.
Yep.
The glue is God within marriage. They are married, and they promise each other to them. They promise themselves to each other for the rest of their lives. And without God, that makes it really difficult.
Right. So God is the glue that keeps the husband and wife together.
Exactly.
Why don't you tell us about the 6th commandment and what is adultery?
Yeah, so we've been talking about marriage this entire time, but the 6th commandment actually talks about adultery. So the 6th commandment asks us not to commit adultery. Adultery is the specific breaking of the vows, the promises within a marriage between a husband and a wife. And this includes in mind, body, and soul.
Wow. Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, so this is a high call. The Lord calls us, he asks us to do some big things, but he doesn't ever ask us to do anything we can't handle.
Right. He must think that we're capable of doing it.
Exactly. Like he knows that if we try and with his help, we can fully practice the 6th commandment well. So he asks us not to break the vows within a marriage. Yeah, so we know a lot about the 6th commandment now. Why don't we move on over to the 9th commandment?
And that is my territory. So the 9th commandment, Jessica, is thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife.
Okay. So you said the word covet. What does that mean?
Well, covet means to desire or want. If our viewers remember from our previous video about the 7th and 10th commandment, we said that some desires and wants can be good for us and good for our well-being, like, you know, feeding ourselves and keeping warm. However, covet is a different territory because it's an unhealthy desire. And to covet your neighbor's wife means that you desire to have your neighbor's wife. And that's an unhealthy desire because it's taking our focus off of God, where our hearts should be, and placing it on something else, specifically someone else. And it's like driving down a road. You know, you're looking straight ahead, and you're focused on what's ahead of you, and that's God. And sometimes something distracts us, and we take our mind off the wheel, and we look, and we know what happens when that happens. It's catastrophe. And it's the same in our lives. When we take our focus off God and we place it on worldly things, you know, then everything goes wrong when we do that. It's really, really bad. And God is not glorified in that way.
So how is God glorified?
God is glorified when we remain faithful to Him, and when we remain faithful to our spouses and people who we are in relationships with, and we keep our promises in that way.
So another way to explain being faithful to God is fidelity, right?
Right, that's a very good word. Yeah, fidelity is faithfulness. It's if you think about it, Jesus was very faithful. He had strong fidelity to God, to the Father. He did everything that the Father told him to. And Jesus calls his disciples, us, to do the same thing, to have the same kind of fidelity, the same kind of faithfulness.
Yeah, so a lot of the 9th commandment is about, like, starting in the mind. Like, we have these wants and desires within our hearts, and they can go to our mind, and then from our mind, it can go into our speech and our actions if left unchecked.
Right. If we don't bring these unhealthy desires and wants to God, they can become bigger, and they can become worse and more damaging to us. But we're called to bring them before God, and when we do that, He will make them clean, like the Psalm says. He will wash us and make us whiter than snow. And it's also important because it plays against this this erroneous ideal of marriage that society sells us when they say that you can get married and perhaps you can live all your life together, but it's not expected, and it's perfectly natural to find another partner. But we as Catholics, we don't believe that. We believe that God can give us the strength to remain faithful to each other and keep that commitment for however long the marriage lasts. So I would just say that, in summary, by God's design, we're called to focus on Him. When our wants and desires become unhealthy, they damage our relationship with God, and they damage our relationship with other people. It damages our souls, and we are unhappy. We are completely unhappy because we have taken our focus off of God.
Yeah, so now that we've gone through both the 6th and 9th commandment, we kind of put them together because the 9th commandment can lead us to the 6th commandment, like we had said. If you leave those wants and desires unchecked, then it can lead you to committing adultery if you're within a marriage.
Right. Before we started talking about the 10 commandments, I never realized how closely related a lot of them are. I learned a lot by studying these 10 commandments and putting these commandments together. I don't know about you, Jessica.
Oh yeah, like a lot of them kind of bounce off of each other, and they're a really awesome way to live our lives because God gave them to us, and by living them, we are living out a life of sanctity. We're living a life of virtue and following Christ, and it's really beautiful. I've never been happier than when I follow the 10 commandments. So
right, exactly. Yeah, it keeps us happy.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. We had a lot of fun talking about the 6th and 9th commandments with you. We'll see you next time.
Now that you've learned all about the 10 commandments, you can bring them and teach them to everyone you meet. Here, take these.
Whoa! Awesome!
Take good care of those, Billy. I better go off. I gotta go take care of those Israelites.
I need to go tell people about this. This is awesome.